March 3, 1947. 16,000 feet above the Bavarian Alps. The air was thin, cold, and screaming. Captain Thomas "Hawk" Ryland gripped the control stick of his P-80 shooting star and watched the altimeter spin as he dove through a wall of clouds. His breath fogged inside his oxygen mask. His heart hammered against his ribs. Behind him, somewhere in the white blur of vapor and sky, was a German Me-262, one of the fastest, deadliest machines ever built. And it was hunting him. The war was supposed to be over. Hitler was dead. Berlin had fallen. Japan had surrendered. The world had moved on. Soldiers had gone home. Parades had been thrown. The Allied powers had declared victory and begun rebuilding the ruins of Europe. But someone forgot to tell the Luftwaffe. In the final months of 1945, as the Third Reich crumbled, a faction of German engineers, pilots, and high-ranking officers disappeared into the mountains of Bavaria and Austria. They took with them blueprints, prototypes, and the one thing that could change the course of history: jet engine technology. Over the next 18 months, hidden in underground factories and camouflaged airfields carved into the Alps, they built an air force unlike anything the world had ever seen. Faster than propeller planes. More agile than bombers. Armed with rockets, cannons, and a fanatical determination to prove that the war was not over, that Germany could still fight, still win, still reclaim the skies. They called themselves the Stahlfalken, the Steel Falcons. And by early 1947, they had become the most dangerous threat to Allied air superiority since the Battle of Britain. On the morning of March 3, U.S. intelligence received reports of unidentified aircraft striking supply convoys in southern Germany. The descriptions were impossible. Jets moving at speeds no propeller-driven plane could match, executing maneuvers that defied physics, and disappearing into the mountains before reinforcements could arrive. The Pentagon didn't believe it. The British thought it was Soviet disinformation. But the pilots who survived those encounters knew the truth. The Germans were back. And this time, they owned the sky. Captain Ryland pulled hard on the stick, and his P-80 screamed out of the dive. The G-forces crushed him into his seat. His vision tunneled. His teeth clenched. For a moment he thought he might black out. Then he saw it. A silver flash cutting through the clouds like a blade. The Me-262. Sleek, angular, impossibly fast. Its twin jet engines glowed orange against the twilight sky. And it was turning toward him. "Contact! I have contact!" Ryland shouted into his radio. "Enemy jet, bearing 270. I'm engaging." Static crackled in his headset. Then a voice, calm, cold, and unmistakably German. "Guten Abend, American. Welcome to the future." The Me-262 opened fire. Tracers ripped through the air. Ryland jerked the stick left, and the rounds screamed past his canopy. His heart nearly stopped. This wasn't a dogfight. This was survival. And somewhere below, hidden in the shadow of the Alps, the Stahlfalken were preparing to launch the largest aerial offensive since D-Day. But before we go higher, if you want to hear the stories history never told, the battles that never were but feel more real than anything in the textbooks, then hit that subscribe button. Because what you're about to hear isn't just fiction. It's a warning. A glimpse into a world where the war never ended, and the skies became the new battlefield. Now let's climb. Let's dive. Let's enter the jet war over Europe. The rise of the Steel Falcons. November 1945. 2 weeks after Germany's official surrender. Deep in the Bavarian mountains, in a bunker reinforced with steel and stone, Oberst Erich von Adler stood before a map of Europe. Around him sat a dozen men, pilots, engineers, and officers who had refused to surrender. Men who believed the war was not lost, only paused. Von Adler was a legend, an ace with over 100 confirmed kills. A pilot who had flown everything from Stukas to Me-109s. And now, the architect of what he called Project Stahlfalk, Project Steel Falcon. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice steady and cold, The Allies think they have won. They think Germany is finished. But they are wrong. We still have the one thing they cannot build fast enough. Time. And technology. He pointed to a blueprint pinned to the wall. It showed the Me-262, Germany's first operational jet fighter. Deadly. Revolutionary. The Me-262 was only the beginning, von Adler continued. We have engineers who can improve it. Factories hidden in the Alps. Fuel reserves the Allies don't know exist. And most importantly, we have pilots willing to die for the fatherland. One of the men spoke up, a young engineer named Klaus Weber. But Oberst, the Allies have jets too. The British Meteor. The American P-80. How can we compete? Von Adler smiled. We don't compete. We dominate. We strike fast, strike hard, and disappear before they can respond. We are not an army. We are ghosts. And ghosts cannot be defeated. Over the next 16 months, the Stahlfalken worked in secret. Underground factories churned out improved Me-262s, faster engines, better armament, reinforced airframes. Pilots trained in secluded valleys, mastering high-speed tactics and hit-and-run strategies. Supply lines were established through sympathetic locals and black market dealers who saw profit in chaos. By early 1947, the Stahlfalken had over 60 operational jets and 200 trained pilots. They were ready to strike. And the Allies had no idea they were coming. First strike. February 12, 1947. 0730 hours. Near Stuttgart, Germany. A U.S. Army supply convoy was moving through a narrow mountain pass when the sky split open. 3 Me-262s appeared from nowhere, screaming over the ridgeline at 500 miles per hour. Their cannons roared. Trucks exploded. Soldiers dove for cover. Within seconds, the convoy was obliterated. By the time American fighters arrived, the German jets were gone. It happened again 2 days later. Then again. Then again. Each time, the pattern was the same: lightning-fast attacks, devastating firepower, and vanishing into the mountains before reinforcements could respond. The Allies scrambled to understand what was happening. Was this a new Soviet weapon? A rogue Nazi faction? A hallucination born of war fatigue? Then, on February 20th, one of the jets was shot down. The wreckage was recovered near Innsbruck. Allied intelligence examined it and confirmed the worst. It was a Me-262, upgraded with improved engines and experimental weaponry. And stamped on the fuselage was a symbol, a steel falcon clutching a lightning bolt. The Stahlfalken were real. Within days, the Pentagon activated Operation Skyhammer, a coordinated effort to hunt down and destroy the German jet threat. The U.S. Air Force deployed its newest weapon, the P-80 Shooting Star, America's first operational jet fighter. The jet war had begun. The Hunter and the Hunted. March 3, 1947. 1,545 hours. Above the Bavarian Alps. Captain Thomas Ryland was part of the first wave of P-80 pilots sent to engage the Stahlfalken. He was 24 years old. A farm kid from Iowa who had lied about his age to join the Air Corps in 1943. He'd flown P-51 Mustangs over Germany, escorting bombers and hunting Messerschmitts. He'd survived flak, enemy fighters, and mechanical failures. But nothing had prepared him for this. The German jets were faster, more maneuverable, and piloted by men who had nothing left to lose. Every engagement was a knife fight at 500 miles per hour. One mistake, and you were dead. Ryland rolled his P-80 hard right, trying to shake the Me-262 on his tail. The German pilot was good, too good. Every move Ryland made, the enemy anticipated. Every evasive maneuver, the German countered. Brake left, someone shouted over the radio. Ryland jerked the stick. Cannon fire tore past his wing. He felt the plane shudder. I'm hit, he shouted. His wingman, Lieutenant Sam Ortiz, dove into the fight, guns blazing. The Me-262 rolled away, smoke trailing from one engine. But it wasn't going down. "Stay on him!" Ryland yelled. Ortiz chased the German jet into a canyon, weaving between jagged peaks. The Me-262 twisted and turned, impossibly fast. Then, without warning, it pulled straight up, vertical, and disappeared into the clouds. Ortiz tried to follow. His engine stalled. The P-80 spun out of control. "Eject! Eject!" Ryland screamed. Ortiz didn't respond. His jet slammed into the mountainside and exploded in a ball of orange flame. Ryland's hands shook. His breath came in ragged gasps. He looked around. The sky was empty. The German was gone. And Sam Ortiz, his friend, his wingman, was dead. The airfield. March 10, 1947. 0600 hours. U.S. Air Base, Ramstein, Germany. Captain Ryland sat in the debriefing room, staring at a cup of cold coffee. Around him, other pilots shared their stories. Every mission was the same: losses, close calls, enemy jets that seemed untouchable. Colonel James Briggs, the base commander, stood at the front of the room. "Gentlemen, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We're losing. The Germans have speed, tactics, and terrain on their side. But we have numbers. And we have determination. Intelligence has identified 3 possible locations for their airfields. We're launching a coordinated strike tomorrow at dawn. Every available aircraft will participate. This ends now." Ryland raised his hand. "Sir, with all due respect, we've been saying this ends now for 3 weeks. They're still out there. And we're still dying." Briggs met his gaze. "Then maybe it's time we stop chasing them and start thinking like them." That night, Ryland couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Ortiz's jet spiraling into the mountain, kept hearing the radio crackle, kept feeling the weight of failure. He walked out onto the tarmac, where his P-80 sat under floodlights. The ground crew was patching bullet holes in the fuselage. One of the mechanics, a kid named Danny, looked up. "She'll fly, Captain. Always does." Ryland nodded. "Thanks, Danny. You gonna get him tomorrow?" Ryland looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Stahlfalken were preparing too. Fueling their jets. Sharpening their tactics. Waiting. "Yeah," Ryland said quietly. "We're gonna get him. If you're still here, you're one of the few who seek the untold truths of war, so hit subscribe and never miss what history tried to bury." March 11, 1947. 0530 hours. The Allied Armada took to the skies at dawn. Over 80 aircraft, P-80s, P-51 Mustangs, British Meteors, and B-26 bombers, formed up and headed southeast toward the Alps. Their mission: destroy the Stahlfalken once and for all. Intelligence had pinpointed a hidden airfield near Berchtesgaden, buried in a valley and camouflaged beneath netting and painted rock. If they could destroy it, they could cripple the German jet threat. Captain Ryland flew in the lead squadron. His hands were steady now. His mind focused. This wasn't about revenge. It was about ending it. As they approached the target, the sky erupted. German jets poured out of the valley like hornets from a nest. 30, maybe 40 Me-262s, climbing fast and spreading into attack formations. The radio exploded with voices. "Contacts! Multiple contacts! Brake right! Brake right! I'm hit! I'm going down!" The sky became a whirlwind of metal, fire, and smoke. Jets twisted and rolled, cannons roaring, missiles streaking. Planes exploded midair. Debris rained down. Pilots ejected, parachutes blossoming against the burning sky. Ryland locked onto a Me-262 and fired. His tracers walked across the enemy's wing. The German jet shuddered, rolled, and dove. Ryland followed, pushing his throttle to the max. The mountains rushed up to meet them. The Me-262 pilot tried to pull up. Too late. The jet clipped a ridge and disintegrated in a cascade of fire and metal. "Splash 1!" Ryland shouted. But there was no time to celebrate. Another jet was on his tail. He pulled hard, felt the G-forces crush him, and rolled inverted. The German overshot. Ryland flipped upright, lined up the shot, and fired. The Me-262 exploded. All around him, the battle raged. American and British jets fought with everything they had. Slowly, the tide began to turn. The Germans were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of fuel. One by one, the Me-262s disengaged and fled into the mountains. By 0800 hours, it was over. The hidden airfield was destroyed. Over 20 German jets were confirmed destroyed. The Stahlfalken had been dealt a crippling blow. But at a cost. The Allies lost 32 aircraft. 47 pilots were dead or missing. Victory, but stained in blood. The Last Falcon. March 15, 1947. Oberst Erich von Adler stood in the ruins of his command bunker. The walls were cracked. The lights flickered. Outside, American troops were closing in. Only 12 Me-262s remained. Fewer than 30 pilots. The dream of the Stahlfalken was over. Von Adler walked to his jet, one of the last operational Me-262s. He climbed into the cockpit, started the engines, and taxied onto the damaged runway. His radio crackled. "Oberst, this is madness. Where are you going?" Von Adler smiled beneath his oxygen mask. "To finish what we started." He pushed the throttle forward and roared into the sky. The final duel. March 15, 1947. 1,600 hours. Captain Ryland was on patrol when the call came in. A single German jet, heading north. Alone. "All units, we have a lone bandit." "Who's closest?" "This is Hawk," Ryland said. "I've got him." He turned his P-80 and climbed. At 18,000 feet, he saw it, the silver Me-262, cutting through the clouds like a ghost. "This is Captain Thomas Ryland, U.S. Air Force. You are ordered to land immediately or be shot down." The German's voice came through, calm and cold. "Captain Ryland, I have heard of you. The pilot who does not give up. Let us see who is better." The two jets circled each other, engines roaring, neither willing to back down. Then they dove. The dogfight was brutal. Fire. Both pilots pushed their machines to the edge. Metal screamed. Engines howled. Ryland fired. The German rolled and fired back. Rounds punched through Ryland's wing. Alarms blared. Come on. Ryland muttered. He pulled into a steep climb. The German followed. At the apex, Ryland flipped inverted, dove, and came up behind the Me-262. He had the shot. He fired. The German jet exploded. Ryland watched the wreckage fall, trailing smoke and fire, until it disappeared into the mountains below. It was over. Conclusion. Captain Thomas Ryland returned home in the summer of 1947. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. He never spoke much about the jet war. When people asked, he'd just say, "We did what we had to do." But at night he dreamed of the sky, of the Me-262s, of Sam Ortiz, of the German pilot who fought to the very end. The Stahlfalken were wiped out, their airfields destroyed, their dream of resurrecting the Third Reich buried in the Alps. History barely remembers them. No textbooks, no memorials, just whispers. But the pilots who fought them, they remember. They carry the scars, the fear, the respect. This story is not real. But the lesson is that war doesn't end with treaties. It ends when the last warrior falls, when the last engine goes silent, when the last story is told. And some wars, even the ones that never happened, teach us the most important truth of all. That the sky, like freedom, must be defended. Boys. Because war doesn't end when the guns fall silent. It ends when the last story is told.